Hey folks, welcome back to the channel, welcome to a new video. It's been a while since I made a video and I thought it was about time I recorded something for the channel again. Anyway, short update, I've had some health issues and that's the reason that I haven't been making videos. I really want to work on the Lexus again, but unfortunately a part that I ordered, the windscreen trim, wasn't available, so I have to find a workaround for that. And at this moment I have more important things to do, namely fix my wife's car. It's a fairly simple task, but I think, hey, it might be interesting for you folks to have a video on that subject. This is my wife's car. It's a 2005 Prius. We've owned it for almost 10 years now. It's almost at 400,000 kilometers and it needs new front brakes. Last week the brake started making a squeaking sound, and that's the brake wear indicators. And since we have that car, I think I replaced the brakes 9 years ago, so they've been on the car forever, and it's about time to put new brakes on, and they aren't expensive. So I'm gonna set the camera up and give you some hints for this job. First, a disclaimer: this isn't instruction or any repair advice. This is just for educational purposes, showing you how I do this job. Now, I said there are two things that you need to know. First, that this is a complicated brake system. It's a combined hydraulic regen braking. When you push the brake pedal, you don't push a brake piston in a master cylinder that applies the brakes. Now there is a sort of torque generator on the brake pedal, and the computer gives you a sort of feedback, a force feedback, and the computer decides on how much regen braking needs to be done and how much hydraulic braking needs to be done. Usually on the normal calm driving you hardly ever use the brakes. It's just under harder braking that the hydraulic brakes are applied, and all of that is computer controlled. That also means if you have the calipers off, you have to rebuild them, or you need to bleed the brake system, you just cannot push the brake pedal and bleed the system in a traditional way. You need a dealer level computer and software for that. It's a fairly complicated and expensive task. That's one. The second thing that you need to know is a lot of European cars have a keyless entry. Means that when the car is locked, when I walk up to the car, the interior lights go on when I approach the car, and as soon as I put my hand behind the door handle, it unlocks. That's the one thing it does. And the second thing it does, it builds up brake pressure. When the car has been sitting overnight, when I walk up to the car, I can see the interior lights go on and I hear a rattling, clicking noise under the hood, and that's a brake pump building up brake pressure in advance. Now the risk is when you have the calipers off and the brake pads out, you have the key in your pocket and the car is parked as it is right now with all the batteries connected. That system can be triggered, and what happens is it pumps out the brake piston from the caliper. You have brake fluid all over the place. You have to clean things, you have to put it back together, and you have to bleed it. And as I just mentioned, that's a complicated task. So if you have a Prius with keyless entry, going to work on the brakes, disconnect the 12-volt battery first, and that's what I'm going to do now. The battery is located on the right hand side corner of the trunk. You need to lift this out. Negative, the ground wire is all the way in the corner to the rear, so I'm gonna disconnect it right now, and the lights are off. Okay, I'm gonna let it sit for now. Now I can safely jack up the car in a time the system can get into full sleep mode, and then we can start working on the brakes. So, tip on my behalf: if you don't have an impact and you want to crack them loose, and do that when the car is still on the ground before jacking up. Second thing is you cannot use these chrome sockets. So I have a chrome socket and extension on my impact. That's officially a big no-no, but the reason I'm doing this is that my special impact sockets for wheels and lug nuts don't fit in this hole. This hex fits really snugly in this hole. That's how this car came, so I need a normal socket to slide in and fit over, and even then it's a very snug fit. So let's see if I can crack it loose. We can lift her up to centimeters, so I have plenty of clearance. There it is. And that's one big rusty mess. So the wheel is off. Now for my safety I'm gonna put this jack stand under. You should never work on your car, especially on these things where you have to sometimes apply force to crack these nuts loose. Yeah, you can wiggle the car and the job drops off the jack stand, and then you're in real trouble. So I'm gonna put this under the subframe. So let's see if we can crack this loose. There's a 17mm head on this side. And if my impact wants to slide in bend back here. There it is. That's one. Let's do the lower one. Sorry, I'm in shop. Limited space in the wheel well. There it is. Get this out of the way so I can support the brake caliper so it doesn't dangle from the brake line. The brake line over here. Okay, currently I have the brake caliper tucked in between the drive axle and the lower suspension arm. I need to crack it loose. It requires a lot of force, so I'm using my torque wrench to crack it loose. Already gave it a few clicks. There are the bolts out, they are equal length. And now we can take this bracket off together with the brake pads. And the inner one, I'm gonna show you, is really worn. And I should be able to take this off. Let's see if there's a screw in here. Nope, but it is seized because it's rusted on this lip over here. And this is why you always apply, well, it's done on here, ceramic grease, but this is seized, so that takes a little bit of persuasion to get it off. And this line over here is for the ABS sensor. Also be careful with that one. So here are the brake pads, and you can see there is this groove in between here. And in the inner one, the groove is almost gone. You look at the thickness, yeah, it's time for replacement. The outer one is much thicker, so it also tells me that the sliding pins of the caliper aren't working optimal anymore. But yeah, and this is a little spring, and when this touches the brake pad, it makes a squealing noise. And anyway, you can see this is a big rusty mess. So if we didn't need to replace it, we at least need to clean and lubricate the brakes. Up next is the removal of the brake rotor, and I said it's seized, so I'm gonna ask the big friendly hammer for assistance. There it is. It's already cracked loose. Now, as you can see, this is terrible. A lot of rust, big lip on the top, on the corner. Yeah. And also the inside is much more worn. The thickness of both sides. This one is much more worn. So now we're first going to clean all of this the best that we can. This is almost gone. Normally you could replace that, but I'm not going to do that this time. I'm gonna get a steel wire in the brush, in the drill, and just clean up the best that I can. So the next thing I'm going to do is gonna take these abutment clips off and clean up this bracket. Let's see, yeah, these are the slide pins. They should slide, but when I try to compress them, they won't budge. So these sliding pins are seized, and that explains the uneven wear of the brake pads. So I'm gonna take this apart, take the abutment clips out, by the way, first. Then I'm going to take this apart. Well, I managed to get the slide pins out. So here's the bracket. This is one of the boots, the other one is still on. But yeah, this is what they look like, completely rusted. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to clean them. Clean these holes, show you how I do that. The best one is just plain old WD-40. So before I start working on those pins, I'm gonna take out these boots and just fill this with WD-40 and let it sit. That dissolves most of the old grease in there. Well, normally I would use the wire wheel on the bench grinder, but I don't have that at hand, so I'm gonna use this and just see what I can get off. So the slide pins absolutely needed to be replaced, and I ordered new slide pins, new boot kit and all. What I'm going to show you in the next scene is how I temporarily fixed it, because I needed the car up and running the same day again. So keep in mind, this is only a temporary / emergency fix. Well, this is how they came out. As you can see on this one was the worst. There is pitting from the corrosion. They need to be replaced. I have to have the car running today. Now that I know this, I'm gonna order them. I'm gonna rebuild the caliper later. These holes have been soaking for a while. That splits in a little bit more WD-40 and try to clean them out. I'm going to use a thin screwdriver on a piece of rag and then just push it in. Well, took 5 minutes, a rag and a little bit of WD-40, but now these bores are fairly clean. You also have these pipe cleaners, which I have at home, don't have it right here, but I think this will do just fine. So now it's a matter of putting the slide pins back in. Now you can use two sorts of grease. You have copper grease that usually works well in brake systems, you can safely use it, but I also like to use a heat resistant lithium grease because that holds up better in my experience than copper grease. I'm not sure what was used before, but it seems they have used a little bit of ceramic grease. Now ceramic grease to many people is ideal for brake parts, but I never use it. I only apply it on this lip over here. But on the back of a brake pads I've always been using copper grease, because copper grease does not dry out as does ceramic grease. That does dry out, and it creates all sorts of new problems. And also I've seen people use it on this, and I think that this has been done before I took this apart. Ceramic grease dries out and then it becomes a gunky hard mess, preventing the slide pins from sliding. So I'm gonna get my jar of lithium grease. I'm using this stuff because this was recommended for the Lexus, and I have always used this on my Lexuses. So what I'm first going to do is put some in both holes. Just push it in with one of the slide pins. I'm going to install the boots, their holes, and I'm just going to slide the slide pins in. It requires a little bit of force. As you can see, they want to spring back, and that's because of the air trapped in there. Kind of push it out a little bit. So this is a major improvement already. Now it's time for the moment of truth, and I haven't checked this package, as you can see. So I ordered a kit from Autodoc. I paid for this myself. They are not sponsoring this video in any way. I'm not sure what I paid for this. A little under 90 euros, I believe, for this kit. So there are brand spanking new brake rotors from Bosch, so it should be a quality brand. I'm just going to test fit them to see if everything is fine, if they are the same as the old ones, just to be on the safe side, but I'm pretty sure they'll fit. And I also ordered a bunch of other parts. Here are the brake pads. So I'm gonna over to the front, test fit this, see if everything lines up. Will it fit? It appears it does, yeah. Perfectly fine. Now you can see there are those holes in here with threaded holes, and these are used to push out the brake rotor when it's seized on, and the old one did have it too, but I used this to crack it loose. Put it in a little, this is an old lid, just put it on this lip over here and in this edge over there, not too much. The same thing with thrust checking. When you have too much grease under there, the brake rotor doesn't land flat on this surface as it should, and then you have brake wobble. Let's clean up the backside of the rotor and use brake clean for what it's actually for. Oh, this cloth sheds quite a bit. Anyway, give it a wipe down. So all that, it's sort of an oil, conservating oil. Now it's off. So now we can reinstall the bracket. So these are the bolts that hold the bracket to the upright, to the hub. I'm gonna clean them off before I install it. They're a little bit dirty, but I like to clean this off. So here they are, all clean and well. I use a steel wire brush in my drill. You have to be a little bit careful with that because you can easily rub off the zinc plating, then they'll start rust again. So I'm going to apply a little bit of copper grease on this first section over here. Then we can install it, and with a little bit of copper grease on there, we have to adjust the torque settings a little bit, but it makes the job for the next guy much easier, and that will work its way in on the rest of the threads. So there it is. Sorry, I have to be in shot a little bit over here. So now I can install the brake pads, and they come with a whole bunch of backing plates. I'm just going to use the ones that were on there. Normally they also can have those squeal pads, those softer pads, but they aren't on this on these. So before I install them, I'm gonna give them a clean with Scotch-Brite. So I cleaned off the rear, those little pads. Can install them. I'm gonna use a little bit of copper grease on the back. I said copper grease instead of ceramic grease because that dries out and creates new problems. Oh, the piston, I must say, over here, so that's the area that I want to cover, and also put a little bit again on the ears that slide in the abutment clips. Just dab a little bit on. So, bottom part first, and then just help it inside the other one. So, that's good. So, I'm about ready to install the caliper again. I cleaned off those little bolts that go in the sliding pins. I want to clean up the caliper more, but I'm gonna do that later on. The first thing I need to do is to put the piston back in because it is extended because of the wear of the older pads, and I usually use a little glue clamp for that. So this is a little bit of a fiddly job. Usually this doesn't take too much force. I think it's already going in. I'm gonna use my Scotch-Brite pad and clean up the surfaces that press on the outer brake pad. I'm just going to apply a little bit of copper grease in those areas over here, and I'm also gonna apply a little bit on the circumference of the brake piston. Just make sure not to get it on the boot. We should be able to slide it over. Push the pins in a little bit. Lower one, that's the caliper on. Just align it a little bit, get the bolts in. I don't have the torque specs for this, but I'm going with the impact and just gonna feel by hand when I'm done. Okay, now comes the most important thing. I haven't tightened the bolts for the bracket, and we should not forget. So, for that we're going to use my trusty old torque wrench. Going for 150. There it is. Now the lower one. And there it is. So, everything is on. I'm going to get a clean cloth, wipe everything down once more, and then we can reinstall the wheel. So it's nice and clean. There was a lot of buildup of dirt, so we can toss the wheel back on. And there it is. So I don't have them tightened to spec yet. They are around 110 Newton meters. First, I'm gonna put the car on its wheels. 120. This side is done. I'm gonna head over to the other side. It's rinse and repeat. Not going to film it, just do a before and after, and then we'll go for a test drive. And concerning the torque. Now I have them set to 120. I'm gonna drive the car for a week and then gonna check again. This side was much worse. I'm going to show you in a close-up. So there is a brake wear indicator on here, but it was incorrectly installed. As a result, that we went through the entire brake pad. I'm not sure who done this. I'm not going to point fingers, but this side was completely worn. You can see there's a lot of thickness on the outer pad. So this is driver's side, this is the outer pad, and the inner pad, as you can see, is completely worn through. Not sure what happened to this brake wear indicator, but it's a good thing we replaced those. I did not expect this. And again, on the driver's side, the pins were seized, so I am going to order new guide pins, do a little rebuild kit. So job is done. The next thing I'm going to do is to hook up the battery, start the car, see if we have any malfunction indicators or warning lights. I'm gonna drive the car a little bit forward because I can see there's a little bit of grease residue on the brake rotor, so drive it forward, spritz a little bit of brake clean on there, and then we can go for a test drive. Alrighty, everything is reconnected, so the trunk is shut. Let's hop in and see if we have any weird warning lights. So let's first power up the car, push it again. Okay, now I'm gonna start it. Foot on the brake doesn't feel different, because of course it doesn't. I'm not sure if the microphone picked it up, but you could hear the rattle of the brake pump. So we don't have any warning lights, so I'm gonna release the parking brake. That's the engine starting up, and drive a little bit forward, put it in gear. I can drive backwards, otherwise I'll drive over my cable. And park it. Now let's have a look at the brake, at the rotors. Yeah, things are looking good. This side, let's head over. Passenger side, rotor is nice and clean. So now it's time for a test drive. Let me turn the camera around so we can see each other. So I'm going for a test drive. I do not have my GoPro with me. I'm filming this with my Handycam, so I cannot set it up in the car. I'm going for a test drive and let you know what the end results are. But for now, I'm very hopeful, and also I'm very glad that I did this. So see you in the next scene. Righto guys, it's the following day and I'm happy to report that everything went fine. No warning lights, car brakes well, fuel economy has greatly improved, so job well done. Only thing is, it was way overdue. In case you're wondering, well, Arnold, you're such a car guy and heavily involved in car tech, how did you let this come so far? A month ago this car went up for its safety inspection and they had a remark on the parking brakes. They do check the brakes and the brake performance, but there were no remarks on the brake wear or brake performance, so I assumed everything was fine. I did have planned to replace the front brakes because of all the rust in there. I didn't expect it to be this bad. And when I wash the car, I always look at the caliper and you can see the outer pad, and then I looked to the pad thickness. That looked fine, and in fact that was fine. Both the outer pads on the left and the right had plenty of thickness, and the only thing is the inside pads were worn. Normally after a job like this you go for a drive and bed in the brake pads, so you drive at low speeds, brake a little just to settle the brake pads and everything in the caliper. Just go and test it, and that's something that you cannot do with this combined brake system. So what I did, I built up some speed to 50 kilometers an hour and did some medium to hard braking. You can see on the display on the inside how much regen braking is done, and you can really feel when the hydraulic brakes kick in. But the thing is, you cannot, as in a normal car, go for a low speed driving and brake to a slow standstill and do that over and over again just to bed the brake pads in. So you have to take your time, do a calm cruise, say 20-25 kilometers, and do a regular brakes to a standstill, and that will bed in the brakes on a Prius hybrid. Well, on a hybrid car, because Prius is always a hybrid. And if you think I want to try this job myself, go watch other videos. There are tons of videos on brake pad and brake rotor replacement, not only on a Prius but a lot of other cars. Just inform well and just go and try it. It's not complicated, and if you think you can do it, I'm pretty sure you can do it, but just make sure that you're well informed by watching other videos. They are very helpful, as are YouTube videos helpful to me on a lot of other subjects. So if you have any questions or constructive feedback, let me know down below in the comment section. And for now, I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video, which will hopefully be a Project LS400 video. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.